Welcome to episode 70.
Barbie!
We went to the film, we came, we saw, we conquered with a group of beloveds.
Join us as we discuss the Barbie movie, its controversies, and its beauty and power, and its challenges. And also, as some beloveds from previous episodes, join us.
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 70.
Barbie!
Yes, we went to the Barbie movie.
We did, with a bunch of other witches and other cool folks.
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to talk all about our Barbie experience, which I have to say, I love doing films with people who are like in it to win it, dressing in the whole bit.
Yeah.
So,
and then we sat down afterwards and had a good conversation just to say we were in it to win it. Like, we were in it.
We were totally in it. I think we talked like 45 minutes.
We talked a long time.
We talked a long time. So, and you'll get some of the benefit of that. But before we do that, let's, our check-in's going to be a little special today.
We have a big reveal.
What are we going to be doing next June, Leilani?
Sitting on the beach?
No. Skiing?
No.
We're going to be walking, hiking in Spain.
We are.
We are going to be doing the Camino de Santiago.
But like, just the Camino de Santiago? Isn't that like super Christian-y?
No. Well, yes, it is. And no, we're not. We're going to be doing the Camino Primitivo, which is based on long before the Christian Santiago, the Saint John. Yeah, before the Christian version. That path had been walked by a number of pagans for many centuries, millennia, whatever. So the two of us are going to be walking the Camino Primitivo. We're going to start in Oviedo, and then we're going to end at the end of the world, Finisterre.
Like literally meaning the end of the world.
That means the end of the world.
I had that realization with you.
Yeah. Yes. So we're pretty excited about it. You're going to hear about this because we have to go into training because we'll be walking. How many miles is it? I can't even remember, but it's a lot of miles, and we'll be walking a lot of miles, and you'll probably get some updates as we're doing the Camino. But yeah, we're super excited.
And we're super grateful to all of our listeners for helping support us and inspire us to do things like this, and all of our Patreon supporters for helping us. We're planning on recording along the path, doing lots of research about the pagan roots of the Camino and the journey to the end of the world, the farthest point west on the continent. So thank you so much for all of your support, and we're excited to keep you in the loop on our way as we prepare.
Indeed. So that's our big reveal. But now let's go to our smaller reveal, which was Barbie.
The Barbie movie,
Yay!
Which is also a big reveal, but I guess kind of smaller too.
Yeah. Compared to walking for a month or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't you get us started by just a little background?
Just a little bit.
So let me preface this by saying, as we all know, or we may not, but I know, Leilani is very much into research and data. And so when we decided we were going to do the Barbie movie, I knew that there was going to be something along those lines. But I was figuring, okay, I love this. We'll talk about the pink and her outfits and how the outfits match the doll and all of that. We've got data. We've got info. We've got facts. So hit us with your facts.
I will. I do love facts and data. So I did a little bit of research, and the Barbie movie has crossed the $1.2 billion threshold mark globally. It hit $1 billion just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then it's already moving on beyond that. So it's already it's joined the ranks of only about 50 films in history if you adjust for inflation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So which I think is pretty sweet.
Yes.
Let's see what else. Oh, it's the highest grossing movie of all time with a woman director.
Yeah.
Which is
huge.
Greta Gerwig.
Which is huge. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and you know, the idea, so numbers are numbers, and they're great, and mm-hmm. they reflect literally people buying tickets to see this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it speaks a little to the impact that this movie has had. And I just think it's amazing that a movie by a woman director, and a lot of women in the production team, I don't know if that was ever made mm-hmm, clear, mm-hmm. a lot of women in the production team on a topic that had such iconic impact for a number of women over, you know, just because of their history, it's so huge. It's so huge.
And like directed by a woman, and I don't want to say it was for women, mm-hmm. but I mean, it definitely is women focused. It's definitely, you know, the audience is women focused.
Mm-hmm. We in our group we had
mm-hmm.
I think we had
a handful of people who identify as men, and
mm-hmm,
then mm-hmm. It was interesting too to look out on the audience. Yes, it was a lot of women, but it definitely was a mixed audience.
It was definitely a mixed audience, and I think I valued the opinion that we got from someone who didn't play with Barbies mm-hmm. growing up and getting their thoughts about that. So yay!
Another point that I want to make out on this is mm-hmm. that Barbie has passed The Dark Knight, which is like a superhero-y type of movie. Mm-hmm, they're both owned by Warner Brothers, and so now it's past that. The Dark Knight had
been the Warner Brothers highest grossing movie,
and then
right?
now
Mm-hmm.
and now Barbie not only passed it but has like smashed it.
Woohoo! Yes,
which I think
broke
is really
through
cool.
the glass ceiling.
Oh, congratulations, Batman, for breaking through that glass ceiling. Which I actually think Batman breaks through plenty of glass ceilings.
Batman does. Batman. But Barbie. What can we say?
Go for it.
Put that shoe, that high heel bump right through it. So
flat feet. So Greta Gerwig also has directed Lady Bird and Little Women. Those were the two that I knew off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. So this is not her first rodeo.
Mm-hmm. But well, you know, that idea of navigating Hollywood with a topic that a lot of insiders, Hollywood insiders, would think is a niche, you know, mm-hmm. kind of film. And I mean, you know, she's paid her dues, and she's also brought out a lot of other quality products that have a real female impact.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea for the Barbie movie came about around 2016. In January of 2019, it was confirmed that Margot Robbie would be taking on the lead role mm-hmm. of Barbie. And then Robbie has won some awards. She picked up the Best Supporting Actress at the SAG Awards, or the SAG nomination mm-hmm. For Queen Elizabeth mm-hmm. and Mary Queen of Scots. She also was nominated for Best Actress in 2018.
Oh, wow.
For playing Tanya Harding in I,
Tonya. Oh, my
Tanya.
gosh. I didn't know that.
Well, and I think that's so cool with an actress when I don't recognize the actress because the characters they play and their body, the way they move their body is so different.
Yes.
And that's true for how I feel about her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ryan Gosling plays Ken. I didn't know he was in Are You Afraid of the Dark, and
mm-hmm.
I loved that show growing up when I was little. Mm-hmm. He was also in Mickey Mouse Club. There's a really cool dance sequence that he does in the Mickey Mouse
mm-hmm.
Club. I'm like jiving over here. And then I think as somebody who hasn't really seen him much, he's like super famous in The Notebook. He's the dude in The Notebook.
Mm. Yeah, so. Well, good.
I haven't seen The Notebook.
I'm not a romance or rom-com person, so I missed that. But I did see him in something else because I knew who he was. You know.
We also have America Ferrera. She plays Gloria. We're going to talk a lot about her speech later that made me ugly cry and make choking sounds as I was crying so hard during her speech. She was on Ugly Betty. That's where I recognized her from.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. she also starred in Real Women Have Curves, Lords of Dogtown, Sisterhood of Traveling Pants.
Yeah, which is how I know of her.
Oh, okay. And then another character that I super loved was Issa Rae. She played President Barbie.
Yes.
And she was in the 2011 web series Awkward Black Girl, and in 2016 she was in the show Insecure.
Yeah. So we had some not, I wouldn't say like the upper echelon of Hollywood, in terms of like the big, huge stars, but we had people who were perfect for the roles, right?
Yeah, I wonder if that's how they were cast.
I think so, because it by doing that, particularly someone like we said with, is it Robbie? I thought I was calling her Robbie. So Margot Robbie, is that how you say her name? So with someone like her who embodies a role where you don't have any bleed through from the last time you saw her, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's super important. Ryan Gosling, he kind of does that in his own way, and Issa Rae is kind of, she's a fresh face in terms of Hollywood. So, well, America, now the difference is America Ferrera. Ferrera, yeah, I want to say Herrera, and there's a little, I mean, let's be fair, there's a little typecasting there too, right? So that's I think that's fine in terms of any bleed through.
So that's my summary of like that background of the movie, as somebody who is not super into movies, not super into Hollywood, not super into like Hollywood stars. That's what I would offer up.
Cool. So let's.
Okay. Here we go.
So one other thing I should say, that we will have a couple of excerpts that are going to be, we went with a group, I think it was like 8 or 9 of us, and then we got some feedback from some of them, and we'll be playing a little excerpts from their feedback, their responses to the Barbie movie, as well. So you get more bang for your buck. You get someone other than just the two of us.
And I think it's really cool that a lot of the witches that went with us are witches we've had on the podcast before.
Oh, right,
so,
yes.
We'll reference their previous episodes, so you can always go back and hear more from them, because I think they're really cool.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so one of the things that I really love about the movie was the way that the roles that the Barbies had, the jobs that the Barbies had. And we're like introduced to that super early on.
Yes. Well, pretty early in the film. And it just reminded me, I'm at a certain age where it's been a while since I've played with Barbies, right? And I'd forgotten so much the ways in which Barbie kind of almost carved a way for girls to kind of think outside. I mean, so, to be fair, we had the Barbies we had the outfit with the little apron that looked kind of like a porn star waitress, that kind of thing. But we also had, a number of different roles, and so we get a chance to see those in. We get a chance to see those early on in the movie. We see Dr. Barbie, lawyer Barbie, physicist Barbie. I'm trying to remember it. Oh yes,
physicist Barbie, because she wins the Nobel Prize.
That's right. President Barbie, Supreme Court Barbie. I love it.
Every single person on the Supreme Court was a Barbie.
It's like, yes! So many problems will be solved, Then there was journalist Barbie and mermaid Barbie. And did they have a astronaut Barbie? I thought they had,
and they had a bunch. I actually Googled and I was trying to find a complete list of all the Barbies shown in the movie, and I could not find one. I kept finding a complete list of all the Barbies in real life.
Oh, gotcha. So, but I think there was and it could just be I'm just casting real life on what we saw. But there's astronaut Barbie, and I guess physicist Barbie would be the scientist Barbie. Yeah.
Could we take a slight detour into something that I wanted to share?
Sure.
Because we just mentioned the all-female Supreme Court. So someone interviewed America Ferrera at one of the premieres for Barbie, and they asked her. They said, "What would you take from Barbie Land if you could?" And she said, "I would take the all-female Supreme Court."
Yes.
And I absolutely love that. And it reminded me of RBG's quote, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's quote. So I put that, so I'd like to read it.
Sure.
So now the perception is, yes, women are here to stay. And when I'm sometimes asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And I say, when there are 9, people are shocked. But there had been 9 men, and nobody ever raised a question about that.
Snap. Snap.
I just think that whenever I heard America Ferrera say that, I instantly thought of RBG saying this. And then I think we're just going to keep jumping into this. We're going to bump into this concept throughout our whole discussion, which is when men do it, we have one reaction, and then when this movie does it, when women do it,
it's like cute and innovative and like, oh wow.
So I think it's going to be interesting as we discuss like an all-female Supreme Court. What? People got upset about that comment, and it's like, there's been an all-male Supreme Court. There's been an all-white male Supreme Court.
Boy, howdy.
There's been a whole white male, presumably Christian heterosexual Supreme Court. So so I think we're going to keep jumping on this over and over again as we talk.
I hope we do. Yes.
So what about Ken's job?
Okay. So just as there are myriad Barbies, there are myriad Kens. And what's amazing about the Kens is that they have their jobs too. But their jobs are a little more static, wouldn't you say? I mean, or maybe how would you like to talk about Ken?
Well, I'd love to talk about stereotypical Ken's job.
Okay, yeah.
And then there was the Ken over at like the Freaky Barbie's house.
I'd forgotten about that Ken. Yes.
So,
yes, okay.
But I think you're right. Like the Ken's jobs were, first of all, less important, possibly even not noticeable or decipherable from their outfits and behaviors. But I would just describe the Kens as being an accessory to Barbie.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Which in most movies or in our world, like oftentimes the woman is the accessory to the man. Like she shows up and is a love interest. Like we'll talk about the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test, but like and this,
or she'll be killed early on, and that's the reason that they go on their quest, right?
Yeah.
So we talked. That's a hallmark of Chris Nolan's films. So just so you know, okay. Anyway, but yeah, so Ken's job was beach.
You mean a lifeguard?
No.
You mean surfing?
No. His job was beach.
That's one of my favorite lines of the whole movie. And I love the way that Gosling did the acting. He's like, my job is beach.
And it's just basically just stand there and look like Ken on the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, he can lean against a surfboard, but he doesn't go surfing.
No. And in fact, the one time in the film when he tried to jump in the water was hard.
Yes.
It was like a backdrop, and he just crashed into it. Yeah. So because that wasn't beach. That was water.
Yeah, he's not doing his job. Start beaching.
Yeah, really, exactly. But he does beach so well.
He does beach well.
Yeah, but like other characters, he was aspirational. He wanted to do more than just beach.
Yeah.
And so when so I think that was the reason he actually followed Barbie, right? Was that he wanted, if she's going on an adventure, he wants to go on an adventure. And he found literature. This is where this is where sometimes books steer you wrong.
Right.
He found literature, right? Yeah. So and we'll talk. Maybe hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about that. But
yes. Okay. So
Barbie.
So I think it is an understatement to say that Barbie has a complicated history, and that and this is like the opposite of eye referencing, but I think our culture in general has a complicated relationship with Barbie, and I appreciated the way the movie like really spearheaded that.
Yes, yeah, just tackled it, start tackling from the very beginning. Yeah, and if we have time, we can talk more about the ways in which our relationship with Barbie reflects our relationship with women, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, very, very complicated. So we're going to listen to about a minute or so of one of the responses of one of our beloveds who went with us to the film, and this is
Setsuna from episode 21, Living Her Magic, interview with Setsuna. She describes herself as a hedge witch in that interview, and I absolutely adore her for so many reasons. And I think one of the really cool things is her statement. It really stands on its own, although I'm sure we'll comment on it. But she just really, I love her analysis of the movie.
Indeed. Okay.
liked Barbie way more than I thought I would. I'm not a fan of goofy movies, but this one was absurd in an intentional way, and I can get behind that. I think it's intentionality that really sold it for me. I'm still having woo moments, and that makes a great movie for me. Don't get me wrong, I loved the feminist theme, even though it was a bit dated, but the emotional core of the movie for me was the different generations of women interacting with each other. I felt like the old lady at the bus stop and Ruth were much needed grounding characters. Each time they were on screen, I felt like I had a space to breathe, and I think that was very deliberate. They were solidly human and acted like it, especially when you compare them to the over-the-top dolls, but they reiterated the female support Barbie had in Barbie Land and the advice that Barbie ultimately needed to hear. Then we've got the complicated mother-daughter relationship of Gloria and Sasha. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's way more likely that dolls from a multiverse can come rollerblading into our dimension than a Latina mother and daughter can make up in under 30 years, but it felt like a realistic, nuanced dynamic to me. At the end of the movie, the two of them seem to take pride in the other's strength without trying to push or project themselves onto the other. To me, it was a really healthy example of selfhood in a particularly tricky relationship. I like how Gloria and Sasha grew closer without becoming joined at the hip, which I think is an ending that a lot of intergenerational movies fall into for a tidy, feel-good conclusion. Greta Gerwig probably didn't write this movie to heal all mother-daughter wounds, but I'm pretty sure that if she wanted to, she could.
I just so adore her insight and just the way, just the clear thinking.
Yeah, I think she has a voice for podcasting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If she ever wants to do one.
One thing that I wanted to mention about how they tackled the complications of the history with Barbie was the way, so I was curious how they would do it, and it's almost in one of the opening sequences. It's within the beginning of the movie. And they say the Barbies are going through all their careers, and they say something like, thanks to Barbie, all the problems of feminism have been solved.
I love how you put your hands on your hips. I did. And you actually you were moving towards a Barbie voice.
Yeah. Like, they're just so happy. Like, everything is perfect now. Like, like, our feminism has solved everything.
Well, because Barbie Land is perfect, right? Barbie Land. And so, there is this sense of, and again, it reflects maybe a slightly more dated, as Hatsune said, a slightly more dated view of feminism. But this idea is like, just give us jobs. We have the jobs, and we have the power, because they do have the power in Barbie Land, and I guess I think then we have a bunch of static people who are beach. Or who are whatever, and how just because the power is now flipped to the other way, to the other side, there is still this issue of who has voices in this world, right? And so that's again, I mean, for me, that's where some discussion of power would have, I mean, not a discussion, because it's a film, it's a movie, it's a Hollywood movie, but a couple of sentences that actually addressed issues of thinking about, okay, well, what are the pendulums? What are the ways in which power swings from side to side? And then how have we solved that? How have we tried to navigate it? Whether it's solved or not. But I love that, because I laughed at it, but it kind of pinged me when they said that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I laughed too. And I noticed the general audience laughter, in addition to my own laughter. And it also, I felt that twinge in my heart of like, oh, honey, no. No. And I could tell that it was comedic on purpose.
Yes.
And so it reassured me that the movie was going somewhere. I didn't do a lot of research before going to the movie.
Good.
So it helped me reassure me, okay, I think this is going to be something that's going to be handled, which I appreciated.
Yeah. And pretty early, so one of the things that we see is that Gloria is America.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So Gloria is the mother, and the daughter is Sasha, and the mother. We'll figure out her connection with Barbie in a moment, but there's spoilers all over this podcast. Go see the movie before you look. Yeah.
I think we probably should have said spoiler alert.
Yeah. If you haven't yet seen the movie, you know what? Just put this one on hold. We'll be doing our anniversary next episode. Go listen to that episode until you've seen the movie. Then come back and listen to us. Sorry about that. Maybe I should.
Sorry, not sorry, because it's been weeks.
It's been weeks.
Months.
Yeah, get out there.
It's been months. So
go see the movie. All right. Okay. Anyway, but the idea of the mother having one experience of Barbie and the daughter as being like totally not and Barbie being kind of coming up against that because she thought it was the daughter that she was supposed to be coming to, right?
Mm-hmm. And then she finds the character named Sasha and thinks everything is good. And then Sasha's like, you've been making women feel bad about themselves since you were invented. And I think it's such the way that the other girls around her were like, give it to her, Sasha. Basically like rip her to shreds. Like, just go for it, It's just a very now way as a teacher.
Oh yeah,
it's a very now way for these young kids to behave.
Well, so and here's the thing: when we were that age, we thought we had invented like critical thinking and the whole bit, and so it was good. It just shows me that eventually they're going to be mellowed a little bit, but we need that. We need that anger. We need that clear-sightedness because that's the only way you grow and you individuate, right? That's the way you move away from mom and become your own self. And it was good to see. And poor Barbie, Barbie's like her mouth was open. She's like, no.
She cries.
She cries. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that opening sequence. Okay.
I love the opening sequence. What was your?
Oh, you know what? They played
2001 Space Odyssey.
But I can't remember the actual name of the piece. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
you would know that, like you musician you.
But yeah, so you have da 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 boom 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 boom, and they have little girls, wearing like brown kind of dull pinafores and like working class dresses, and are they all wearing glasses?
I don't know.
What's up with that?
The one main girl is definitely wearing the bottle cap glasses.
The bottle bottom.
Glasses that are
bottle glasses.
Yeah.
I think they all were, and as someone who wears, so it's like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? What's up with that? But anyway, showing them with baby dolls, and the idea being that dolls were to help young girls to learn to be mothers, that they could play, and through play they would learn how to take care of each other, of their children and each other. Yeah,
I had never thought about the fact. So I only grew up with Barbies. That's not true. I grew up in a time where there were Barbies and more.
Yes.
And I had never considered that baby dolls were the only type of dolls. And so then therefore that meant that all you could do was be a mom.
If you wanted to play. Yeah.
That's how I would play, is being a mom if I was of that generation. Be a mom and act like your moms, which would mean like I take care of the baby and I clean and I cook. Like that's it.
Yeah, wipe the baby's ass. Yeah, feed the baby. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I thought that was super smart. I thought it was first of all, it's with this music that is epic, and it's about societal changes. In the original, it's like humanity growing from like early versions into Homo sapiens, right? And so here are girls who are earlier versions of themselves, and then they're looking up these legs.
Very sexy legs, like these thin, long, not biologically possible legs and torso, and
and they see Barbie, and then they take their dolls. What do they do with their dolls, Leilani?
Smash the shit out of their dolls.
The friend that had come with me said, "Oh, that's what I do with my dolls all the time." Alrighty then, yeah. So yeah,
I was with my niece. She sat next to me, and I leaned over to her, and I was like, "Oh, I see why this pissed a lot of people off." And I looked for the actual quote and I couldn't find it. But the narrator says something like the girls could only be mothers or just mothers. I can't remember if it was only or just, but the word they used was very nuanced. And again, I had that pricking feeling, because that's just such a hot button for women, because women are, and we'll talk more about this later, but women are never good enough. If you're a mom, well, why aren't you better at your career? And if you only are in a career, well, why aren't you a mom? It's never, you're never okay.
Yes. Or if you're a mom, why aren't your kids doing better?
Right. You're not a good enough mom, or you're not we'll talk more about that later, but I felt that prick whenever they used the word like just, or only, and I also understood why it would really piss some people off. If I believed that women were only supposed to be or supposed to focus on being mothers, seeing these girls smash the baby dolls and want to be a lawyer or want to, and are literally destroying the symbol of preparing them for what a woman is supposed to be, I was like, oh shit. Oh, this is going to make some people mad.
Yes. And it did.
It did.
It did.
And that is actually why I saw the movie. All the negative reviews. I was like, "Ooh, this sounds like a movie I want to see."
Exactly. That's we'll talk about critics and stuff later, but yeah, that was my response too. So then there has been, you cannot open your laptop or your phone without seeing something about Barbie fashion. And one of the things that I'd love us to listen to another excerpt from Setsuna's response, and she talks about the fashion, but in a very smart way. But one of the things I love is how she talks about Ken's fashion.
Oh yeah,
because the idea that he has this opportunity to reinvent himself, and based on the literature that he read, which. Oh my gosh! I just find that I cringed and loved Ken. Cringed at and loved Ken. I mean, just because he just held up so much of the patriarchy for ridicule, right? And just held, in such a sweet way. I mean, I loved him. Yeah. So anyway, but so here we'll listen to a little bit of Setsuna.
A little more of Setsuna.
A little more of Setsuna. Yes.
Another thing I loved about this movie were the costumes. It's safe to say I like fashion. I go to bed thinking about what I'm going to wear tomorrow. I change like twice a day. I absolutely dressed up for this movie, and I love everything about intentional clothing, particularly in movies. I'm so glad that the team didn't just stick all the characters from Barbie Land in neon pink polyester, especially since fashion is so integral in the Barbie brand. They clearly considered each character's perspective when they were making the wardrobes. Barbie initially wore a pink A-line dress when she was completely content with her life in Barbie Land, and as the story progressed, she ended up wearing the softest yellow chiffon dress that really encapsulated her decision to leave Barbie Land. The colors, the silhouettes, the fabric, the callback to earlier fashions were so precise, I consider it perfect. I swear, I need an hour-and-a-half PowerPoint presentation to go through her clothing arc. But you know who else had a really telling wardrobe? Ken. The doll who's lucky if he comes with a shirt had the most iconic wardrobe piece in the entire movie with that god-awful Sylvester Stallone meets Macklemore fur coat, which metaphorically transformed into a soft pastel fleece hoodie that I'd totally wear on days that I want to relax on the couch. His clothing was symbolic the whole way through, from an accessory to Barbie, then trying to project and protect his fragile masculinity, and finally into a safe, cozy closure. Jacqueline Duran has officially ruined every other movie I'll ever watch. I think this movie could have gone further and explored many other facets of feminism, but I also think that the team behind it had a specific scope that constrained them. These days, I'm just happy to see a movie that passes the Bechdel test. So yeah, I'd recommend this movie, either on the big screen or your TV when it comes out, but I think that your best viewing experience is if you go with a bunch of friends.
So I just think that that's just so amusing.
I love it. And as somebody who is not fashion oriented, I wear black or tones of black, and I have the same pair of pants, like 5 same pairs of pants that I just rotate through. So I really appreciate that. And I know that there's been a lot of writing on the internet about the style choices and the way they harken back. That's just not what I've really focused on. And so I love people like her who are able to really enlighten me about that.
Yes. And the ways, what I really enjoyed was watching the fashions from the premieres, the way they dressed Margot Robbie as, you know, as various Barbies over the years, and some of which I actually remember when they came out.
Oh wow!
Yeah, when I saw, it's just amazing. But yeah, I just thought it was so sweet. And did we say? I don't know if we said did we say when we saw the film how we were attired?
Now is a great time. We did not. Yes. Now is a great time.
Yeah. So I think we kind of left it up to the individual. We decided that we'd either go pink or what was our other choice?
Goth Barbie-ish. Witch goth?
Yeah.
Witch Barbie?
I was just thinking like, you know, just totally alternative, right? So I had two outfits in mind. One was going to be like biker Barbie. I was going to wear a black bandana and have another bandana tied around my arm, a black t-shirt, black jeans, and some black leather boots. And then as I was getting ready to put that on, and then I saw I had this crinkle pink top, and I thought, well, you know, since the last time I wore it, I think was like 2 years ago for a party for someone who likes pink.
Oh, wow.
So I said, well, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to, because I wear black a lot. So this is an opportunity for me to like get into the Barbie vibe and wear pink. And it was really fun.
I also wore pink. I bought a pink shirt at Walmart for $3 to wear to a Barbie themed dance party at the summer camp that I was at.
So you were ready.
Because I don't have any pink, I have black. I had wanted to wear black just to be contrary, because that's who I am. But my niece wanted pink, so I was happy to oblige. So I wore a pink top, and I had rhinestoned it. I had added some rhinestones to the neck.
Some sparkle.
I do love sparkle. And then I wore some like chameleon colored, meaning they like change color depending on the direction, like purple, pink, green, blue leggings. And then I wore my hair up in space buns, 2 buns. And then I had a pink headband that crossed over to the Mean Girls universe that said on Wednesdays we wear pink. And then I had some pink sunglasses in the shape of hearts that were given to me at camp. So I had like collected some stuff. And then my partner, who you'll hear from later on in this episode, he wore another pink Mean Girls headband. He wore a pink tank top, which with matching bejeweled neckline. And then he wore like pinky purpley joggers, because
he was secure in his masculinity.
Yeah,
so he could wear pink.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. I love that. Yay!
And other people who came, everyone who came in our group was wearing various versions of pink. And just like Setsuna in her interview, she like talked about the fashion. She is so fashion conscious, and when she walked in, I was like, whoa! Now that is a Setsuna Barbie.
It is a Setsuna Barbie. It was lovely to behold. Yeah. So yeah, we did it.
Okay, are you ready to do America Ferrera's speech?
Yes, let's do it.
What was your reaction to hearing this?
Well, I know it was coming.
Okay.
So I was prepared. I did, and in fact, I thought I would cry. I didn't cry because I got caught up. I mean, I was just like, you know, just like really, really, I was so into it. I was really following each word, you know, thin, but not too thin, that you can never say and you can never say you want to be thin, you know, oh my gosh. It just, for me, it resonated with a lot of the things that we've said in this podcast over the past almost 3 years now. So
I knew that it was coming. I had purposely avoided it in the media, like I did on social media. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to hear it in the movie in context first, so I had avoided it. I ugly cried. I was crying so hard that I like was making like gaspy, grunty noises, which is, I don't know that I've ever done that in the movie theater. So I was actually slightly embarrassed because I was making so much noise. What are your thoughts on reading this?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe we could go back and forth?
Sure.
Oh, I wonder how I'm going to feel reading this. This is life.
This is life, exactly.
Okay. This is America Ferrera's speech as Gloria and Barbie. It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like, we have to always be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. You can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash others' ideas.
You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women, because you're supposed to be a part of the sisterhood.
But always stand out and always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you.
And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. I'm starting to choke up. And if all of that is also true for a doll just representing women, then I don't even know. Whew.
I think that last sentence, and if all of that is so true for just a doll representing women, and we'll talk more about the criticism later, but it's like, no wonder the world or our culture has had such a problem with this movie about a doll.
About a doll! A doll!
It's a doll that represents women, but it represents women. And so for me, when people are complaining about the movie, I'm like, you're complaining about women. Like, that's really what this is. It's not really about...
It's not about Barbie. But yeah, it's never about Barbie.
Right.
It's really about women, right? Yeah, yeah. Like I said, she says so much, and it's so true. And and the part that I think impacted me the most is when she said, "I'm just so tired of it." You know, it's like we carry so much on our shoulders in terms of just trying to navigate everything, and then we have to navigate also people's expectations of us, right? Really, really powerful.
I really appreciated the way she pointed out the paradoxical nature of the womanhood. You know, do this, but not too much, but also not too little. And also, if it's your fault for doing it wrong, even though, you know, like, it just like a paradoxical catch-22 booby trap world that in which we're supposed to navigate. And it's impossible. It's literally impossible because it's paradoxical and catch-22.
Yep.
And yet we're supposed to pretend like we're navigating it with grace, even though we're getting like we haven't a clue. Yeah, I'm imagining like those bear traps, like snapping on my leg, but I'm just like smiling, and like, this is great.
Yeah, and like 4 of them are like,
like snap, snap, snap. I'm so happy.
These are my children. Okay, don't look at them too long.
Right, these are my children. Aren't they beautiful? But don't look at them too long. And also, I'm doing career, and I'm doing motherhood.
I like that. I'm like beach.
Right,
I do career.
I do
career.
I also do mom.
Yes.
Or indeed. I don't do mom, but that's also wrong.
Yes. You know, it's like, exactly. Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. And then the other part that I thought was just that had so much impact was this idea that one of the things that America Ferrera did not say in her speech was the part about how we're supposed to be modest. Women are supposed to be modest as well. Oh. And so, you know, someone says, you know, even if it's someone says you had a great pan of baked ziti, oh well, I should have had a little bit more salt or whatever. We can't accept a compliment. We can't, which means it's not even the compliment. It just means that we can't step into our full power. We can't shine. We can't be shiny. We can't do all of the stuff that would earn us compliments.
Yeah, shine, but not too bright.
But not too, shine a little bit, but not too bright. And then when someone comments on your shine, you go, oh, poo-poo it.
No.
This whole thing.
So that actually is that was one of my biggest, like, woes of the movie. It was towards the beginning. The Nobel Prize, or a physicist Barbie won the Nobel Prize, and they awarded it to her. And her response was, and I could not find the direct quote, but I'm paraphrasing here, something like, "I worked really hard for this. I deserve it."
Yeah.
And she said it with a smile, and then everybody clapped.
Yes. Like no poo-pooing or all the people that helped me or none of that. No, I deserve it.
I've worked really hard on this. I deserve that.
I want to cry.
Oh my God. I would never say that. I mean, I would think it, but I would never say that because I would be.
You'd be slammed.
I would.
You'd be slammed shitless.
You ungrateful, spoiled bitch. You know, like that's how I think I.
What about your team?
Yeah.
What about your? No. Yeah. I worked really hard for this, and I deserve it.
Right.
And thank you for giving it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for giving it to me because I worked really hard for it, and I deserve it.
Thank you for recognizing how hard I've worked.
Yes.
But seeing, and that happened a number of times in the movie with the Barbies, and then the only non-Barbie that I can remember seeing it happen to was when stereotypical Barbie was talking to the old woman at the bench when she was in the real world, and stereotypical Barbie turns to the old woman at the bus station and says, "You're beautiful," and the woman smiles and responds, "I know," and she said it. I'm getting teary-eyed. She says it in like. In a different way than the Barbies. Like the Barbies were like, I deserve it. You know, she said it in this really soft, kind, authentic way of like, I know, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if someone told me I was beautiful, when people tell me that I'm beautiful, I never respond. I know.
Because you'd be slammed for being a grateful bitch.
Right? You ungrateful bitch.
You know, it's like, it's your mother. It's not your, it's not your doing. Right. It's your mother's doing. Like everything else, we're the product of everything else, right? And no one acknowledges that, right? But when you say something like that, oh, well, it's not really you. It's really just your genes. You have really good genes. Well, yeah, but I'm wearing them, okay?
And how often do men in our culture, when they're told they're doing a good job, say, I am.
Thanks, dude. And then,
right.
It's belly bump or whatever.
Like I think it's way more okay for a man to accept praise.
Oh, yeah.
And not redirect it.
And not redirect it. That's a good point. Yes. Yeah.
Oof. So that was the part that was one of my biggest moments that like took the wind out of me when I watched that movie.
Yeah. So shall we dive into matriarchy versus patriarchy?
Yeah, let's just crack that nut real quick.
And it's not actually the correct term for Barbie Land, right? Because there are no mothers or fathers, right? But
right, that's so. So would it be
sorority,
and fraternity?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, except all the Barbies are really, except for Weird Barbie, they're all very much together. They're much friends, but the Kens, they have some issues, right? Yeah, because they're because they're Kens.
I'm an Enneagram 2, and my empathy is off the charts. And when Barbie, when I felt like the movie was really pointing out how Barbie was this full and complete person on her own, but Ken was only complete in relation to Barbie, which I want to point out is flipping the roles of how our culture is built.
Yes.
And which is why I think so many people got their sand in their butt crack about this movie.
On the beach.
Right? Because Ken was beach. But my heart broke for Ken. When he was expressing how he wanted to be with Barbie, and Barbie was totally okay being without him, and wanted to have a party, and it really didn't matter if he was there or not because all of her best girlfriends were there.
Yeah.
And my heart broke for him, and in that moment, because again I hadn't figured out I had not looked at the movie ahead of time. In that moment, I found myself wondering, oh my god, am I not going to like this movie because it's just going to be patriarchy reversed,
perpetuate, yes,
And in my heart, I was like, that's not what I want. That's not, and ultimately, I know that that's not what this movie was pushing.
Yeah.
But it took a moment to highlight. Hey, if you think this is uncomfortable, have you considered that this is what the world is like, but flip-flopped?
Exactly. It really points out in a very clear way for people who have eyes to see what that looks like. See, if you're so used to seeing it, it's hard to really delve into it unless you're suffering from it yourself, right? But to flip it in such a blatant way, I think, like you said, what was it, sand in the butt crack. I love it. I mean, yeah, it jarred people in a way that they, because the bottom line is it makes you think. Mm-hmm. It makes you think outside your conventional received wisdom and maybe, like, I don't know, grow. Mm-hmm. And some people don't want that.
I think you said it really well just a second ago about how it made people look outside of what we're so used to seeing. Mm-hmm. And because I think if we step outside and we really look at it, I can see it, but it's the water that we're swimming in our culture. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the woman dies and then the man goes on the adventure because the woman died. Like it's just so blatant everywhere of how women are accessories and not that important. I mean, like Lord of the Rings, like there's just like a handful of yes, sprinkled throughout it, and they're like, it's just like, it's so blatant. But then when this movie does it backwards, people get all up in arms.
They lose their shit.
They lose their shit.
They lose their shit.
There's like a whole beach worth of sands up their butt crack.
And there's plenty of beach because Ken's in charge of beach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And then whenever Barbie world flips into Ken world, I felt like they did a great. By this time in the movie, I was like, okay, it's going to be okay. Like they're not just going to say, screw patriarchy, let's just do matriarchy. Mm-hmm. I could tell they were making a point, but when it flips to patriarchy so Ken, before we talk about that, I just love when Ken goes to the real world and he's like so impressed that the whole world is built around him, and he's like, oh my god, people want to hear what I have to say. They ask me what time it is, and so then he comes back to Barbie world with 3 watches. 3.
So he can be prepared when people ask,
because he really wants to be important.
And a fur coat. And not to, I mean, as Setsuna said,
mentioned,
the fur coat.
Oh my god!
I love, like I said, it was kind of cringy because, what is he going to do now? And throwing them out of the houses and the whole bit. It's like, okay, well, but I loved it because it was such a clear and present, expression of what life is like for the other side. Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I love the way you say that. Mm-hmm. It really just highlighted how ludicrous either extreme is.
Exactly. Exactly.
And unfortunately, as I watched the patriarchal extreme, it seemed more familiar to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, I wonder why that is. Yeah.
So my partner. He actually, after the movie, he had one big thing that he was really mulling over about that. So maybe we could listen to him and what he had to say. And joining me now is my partner, Ben.
Hi.
And Ben and I went and saw the Barbie movie, and I wanted your opinion on it.
So overall, I think the movie was really great. Loved it, and I laughed a lot. There was a lot of good scenes. I think there was a lot of things that the movie tried to tackle or could have tackled as far as like societal issues or norms or patriarchy versus matriarchy. And I feel like there's no way they could have handled all of them. One of the things that I feel like at least could have tackled a little bit better was, or at least could have thrown in a little, just a tiny bit, was like how they clearly stated that the patriarchy was bad. And to some degree, I feel like they stated that like swinging the far end to the matriarchy could have been bad too. But they clearly stated that the patriarchy was bad to women, but I feel like they missed one or two opportunities where they could have shown how the patriarchy is bad for men as well.
I love it so much. Okay.
This is one of the things that he brings up that I also was really thinking a lot about, because and I think that the people who are getting really upset about this movie are missing this really extreme point, which is, or getting upset in this extreme way, are missing the simple point, which is that neither the patriarchy or the matriarchy in these extremes are serving people. Yes. The idea that when we push these things to an extreme on one end, then we're leaving out other people, but then it also, the person or the group in power also is not whole, because when we disenfranchise, we are humanity and we are disenfranchised.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And and he put it so well. I won't reiterate what he just said, but I just thought it was such a wonderful opportunity for us to have kind of a national discussion, right? But again, we kind of, people just kind of like got into their in anger and not even open the door for dialogue. And this would have been, I mean, can you imagine if we had like town halls after every screening of kind of like our conversation, but someone just saying, okay, don't leave the theater, everybody, here's some free popcorn, let's talk, right? Wouldn't that have been well, it would have been useful, but it might have been preaching to the choir, because the people who
went, seeing it,
So
there was a part in the movie where during Ken's patriarchy time, the Kindom time, where Ken cries and he pulls down a pair of sunglasses, and then he pulls down a second pair because Ken is,
he's Beach.
He's Beach. He's like absurd at this time, and whenever he did that, it triggered this feeling in me of like that's patriarchy. Like he may be in power, but he can't have space to express
all of the parts of himself.
Yeah, he can only be this Ken who has a mini fridge and loves horses,
I love the horses.
And be like a dude bro, but he can't cry. And so for me, it was highlighting this way of saying that these extremes, that these exclusionary extremes do not serve the people in power. They box people in, whether you're in power or not, but because you're boxed in, you can't be full and complete.
Exactly. I totally agree.
And I think Ben was really like tying into that, but wanting more of that.
Yes.
But I think that speaks to his experience, as a white cis male. Like he really feels that boxed inness and wants to be able to be full and complete.
I think the sequel, Ken and his bros. I want to see them, like, I don't know, go to Iceland or whatever and try to start a commune. Or something. I'm not sure. Because, again, with the hypermasculinity, what happens? The battle, the violence, et cetera, et cetera. And so, them going off or to an ashram or something and kind of exploring masculinity in a safe way so that it's not either or. It's not all or nothing. That we can, and by doing that, they can bring that back to Barbie Land, right? And just imagine what that would look like, So, I don't know.
I had imagined that too, and I was actually a little sad at the end of the movie. I was hoping that some of the Barbies would show up wearing Ken clothes, and some of the Kens would show up wearing Barbie clothes.
Yes,
and maybe this is a good way to transition into like the criticisms. While I was bummed that didn't happen, I was really just trying to sit in the fact that, first of all, this is a Barbie, and Barbie cannot contain everything.
Yes,
but because Barbie is so integrated into our culture, we project onto her and Ken. We project onto them so much. We project everything, I think, all the complexities of ourselves. But also, it's only like an hour and a half-ish long movie. Like it cannot address all of that. But I do think that I loved it so much, I felt called to be like, no, tell me more. Like, show more. Show up more for all of us. For all of the issues that all these people have.
Yes.
With race, with classism, with everything, with sexism, with everything. Like, let's, come on, show up.
Yes, exactly.
And it didn't.
It didn't because, But, so, like, we've got, 15 Batman movies now? Like, just like Batman 17 coming out?
Oh my God, Fast and the Furious. Like, they literally launch a car into space,
Exactly.
Like, if Batman and Fast and Furious can do it.
I think there's room for at least a trilogy, right?
Right.
So we could have, next would be Ken exploring masculinity, and then the third would be Midge, the pregnant one. Yeah, I mean, let's explore, because they don't talk about that. They do in the Gloria Sasha relationship, but explore motherhood. I think that would be like the trilogy. That would be perfect. So Greta, we can talk.
These witches have suggestions.
We have some suggestions. Have your girl call my girl. I guess I am my girl.
You are. You are my girl. You are. So would you say that the criticism in some ways is valid?
Oh, yeah. The criticism is valid. And we're going to have a response from another person who was with us when we saw the film and who's also been on the podcast.
She's from episode and I think that it's amazing that she was on episode 13.
13! Yes!
Episode 13, it's called Badass Bruja, Roma's Interview. And I think when you listen to that episode, it really shows her perspective and the fullness of like her identity and who she is. So I was really interested in her perspective on the movie.
Mm-hmm. So let's listen.
Overall, I really enjoyed the Barbie movie. I thought that it was very smart, funny, beautifully designed in terms of sets and costumes, and lacking some depth and nuance that I would have really appreciated. The feminism that's featured in the film is a very white, USian third wave feminism that doesn't grapple at all with the ways that patriarchy and capitalism are tied up with white supremacy.
Yeah, so this was, I mean, I have not enjoyed a movie this much in ages. I mean, the communal aspect, like going with people, friends with whom, and then talking about the film afterwards. I just thought it was so super smart, and even with the criticisms that we had, I think the point that you made is that the movie can't do everything, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what it did well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My response to the movie was yes and.
Mm-hmm. Yes and.
Yes
exactly.
and. Mm-hmm. I see the movie. I see what it was doing. I think it did a great job. I think it was incomplete. But I think that no 90-ish minute long movie about a doll can be complete. Yeah. And that's not a call to say, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's not a call to say, just be happy for this. Sit down, sit still, look pretty, shut up. Mm-hmm. And just be happy we gave you something. To me, it's a call to say, and. Let's do more. Explore more. Clearly, people are hungry for more. Clearly, people want more representation and an exploration of the way that our society oppresses and objectifies and pushes them down and raises other people up. And like Roma did a great job of talking about those different ways.
Yes.
But like clearly people want more of that. So come on, Hollywood.
And So one of the things I was going to say is the fact that, yes, this is a film that did some thinking, that did some smart thinking. It could have been more nuanced, but it was there. And it came out of Hollywood. So that just goes to show Hollywood can do it. It can happen. And so we now know that everything doesn't have to be the 9th sequel of a huge movie that's going to destroy New York City, right? Mm-hmm. We can see something where people they come out of the theater thinking, or come out of the theater sitting down and talking with the people that they went to the theater about the movie, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done a lot more than it is being done.
Yes. So we have, this isn't in our notes, but I'm curious. Did you see the Ghostbusters movie, the female Ghostbusters?
No, I haven't.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't even know when that was released, mm-hmm. but I felt similarly but less intense about that female Ghostbusters movie. And I cried a lot in that movie. Not that the Ghostbusters movie was like, deeply emotional or poignant, right? But I cried a lot because I realized that I felt represented in a way that I don't normally feel. And even I don't know what that character's name was, but the male receptionist who was an idiot, mm-hmm. a hot idiot. Mm-hmm. But basically Ghostbusters just flipped it,
Yes.
Like you have like the masculine heroes and then the sexy woman mm-hmm. receptionist who's just there to look hot and have mm-hmm. boobs, and they flipped it, and you've got these women who are awesome in Ghostbusters mm-hmm. and then this hot sexy receptionist who's just a total idiot but mm-hmm. is so cute.
He's so cute.
Very handsome. And then I saw this movie and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like that but more.
So we can do it.
And I want more.
Hollywood can do it. And now I'm hoping that the powers that be in the film industry recognize that, we can throw a smart movie out there. That there are people who really do want to see a smart movie. They've talked themselves for years into, no, we just need to we need to figure out the formula and then just do the formula.
And when particularly when white men are the only ones in the room making the decisions, or when white men are the ones holding the purse strings, like, of course they don't think it's interesting.
Of course not.
You know, and I do think that there are a lot of white men who do think it's interesting and want it. But there are, you know, they're like, why would anyone care about that? You know, because we do.
Because we do.
And because you're not us and you don't understand what over 50% of the population wants to see. We want to see it. And we've got money.
As we know.
Right?
Yeah.
I would like to go see the movie again.
Yeah. And what I like is the fact that as we're talking about it, we're talking about all of the things that we loved, but we're also we're putting out there so more and more people can hear it and more people can say it. We're joining the voices that have been critical of the film, that said, yes, we love it and we want more, you know? And I think that that's, an important part of the cycle. With films in our circle, anytime we do something, we always ask for feedback afterwards. That's not the way Hollywood works, but they get feedback. They get feedback in terms of money. They get feedback in terms of tickets sold, right? But they also need to get feedback in terms of criticism.
So I think that what you're saying is very witchy. I think it's very witchy in that we're adding our energy. You know, like I like to think of this like this Barbie energy tidal wave and. These two podcasters, you know, we're adding our energy to that wave. And I think we're doing so intentionally and magically. But I want to see that. I want to see more people's voices and experiences heard. And I want it to be an opportunity for progress. And I want it to be an opportunity for repair. And I don't believe that I can move forward unless I acknowledge where I've come from. And I don't think I can truly move forward unless I offer repair.
Oh, yes.
And this movie, to me, is calling for that.
Calling for that.
Calling me to do that. Calling our culture to do that. Calling Hollywood to step in and do their part in doing that.
Oh, and it could be such a powerful blessing even if just a few people recognize that for what it is.
I wonder about some men. If some men watched that movie and experienced that.
I am convinced that some did. I
know I did.
Yeah. So our poem was so perfect in terms of the Barbie movie. It's called Self-Determination, and it's by Mary Lou Healy. I think she died maybe 2 years ago. Not very old, but was very active in poetry circles. She did a lot of poetry mapping and showing like the underlying forms of different poems, and kind of inspired other people to write poems using really being sensitive to and intentional about their underlying structure. So this is Self-Determination. I will paint my way through pain, losing myself in pathways of my own imagination, making doorways of escape where there were none, changing stark vistas to invitations in green, to waters that glimmer with promise, cool and life-filled.
If I stumble on a root, I will blank it out and replace it with a flower. I would be a tree that bends with seasons, acknowledging their influence, the weight of them upon me. If the shell of myself be hollow, I will fill it up, brush in whatever I choose to be. I am the artist. I am the canvas. I will make of me what I will.
Goosebumps because we hear that in the Barbie movie. We support and encourage that in our listeners and in ourselves. And I live for a time when we're all painting ourselves, when we're all being what we will.
May you paint yourself. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss the Barbie movie and so much more.
And so much more.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!